Welcome to Myco Minute, conversations about collaboration brought to you by the capacity creators at Myco Consulting LLC, where we help higher ed, nonprofit, and philanthropic leaders advance the initiatives they care about most.
Back to Myco Minute, and today I am in conversation with Manu Meel, who is the Chief Executive Officer of BridgeUSA. And full disclosure, before we jump into the conversation today, I am on the board of Bridge, and so I guess that means that I am a known advocate, an ally, and cheerleader of this amazing organization. So Manu, welcome.
Deb, thanks so much for having me, and you being on the board means you're going to take it easy on me, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I won't ask you any, insider secrets or any of that stuff today. So I think before we talk about what BridgeUSA is all about, it would be helpful to start with the problem you all were trying to solve. So rewind, tell us the origin story as kind of a way of guiding us into this amazing organization.
Absolutely. So in full disclosure to everyone listening, I just graduated from college about 8 months ago. And so I'm fresh on the beat when it comes to full-time work, but that's what makes this so exciting. So let me set the scene for you. In 2017, my friends and I, who weren't friends at the time, we were freshmen, second semester, we're walking around our campus at UC Berkeley, and the university Republicans basically invite a speaker by the name of Milo Yiannopoulos. Now, there was huge protest because he came to campus. And I remember vividly, Deb, I was walking past a coffee shop, the windows were broken, and there's a TV on there that showed CNN, UC Berkeley, free speech riots. And then I'm walking past a CNN crew who's recording that incident. And it was one of the most surreal moments in my life till that point. It was very meta. It was both meta and it was indicative of how crazy the world had gotten so quickly till I got to college. And the next day, I remember also vividly that we were on Plaza and Sproul Plaza, and there were students. And there are three sentiments that were coming about: a lot of hopelessness, a lot of pessimism about the direction of our politics, and just this feeling of dread that the country's not headed in the direction that we want it to be headed in. It doesn't matter if you're conservative, liberal, it's just things have to change. And we thought about, what if we created just a listening space on campus where people could just hear each other, understand each other, be able to just listen, nothing political. That slowly snowballed into Bridge Berkeley. Turns out that having a student-led facilitated listening space was in short supply, and students loved the concept. And so many people jumped in. Someone else had already created this thing called Bridge Notre Dame, my awesome friend Roger Karma. So we linked up and we created BridgeUSA, and another person named Cortland Carpenter who had already created Bridge CU. And that slowly built into this organization. And the concept and focus here, Deb, is how can we elevate a politics of empathy, create student-led voices that are aspiring for something better. Forget politics for a second. Think of ourselves as people. What do we want as people, and what do we want achieved? And so that's what we're doing in college campuses, is creating these listening spaces so that young people feel more hopeful and feel like they can actually have conversations that need to be had to solve the political issues of our time.
Totally inspiring, much needed. And it is crazy to me to think that the origin story involves busted windows, CNN, and the Milo story. And just what a perfect flashpoint for an idea.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So how does Bridge do its work? What are you all actually doing on the ground on these college campuses?
Yeah. Think about a city where you have green spaces. You come into that green space, you escape the hyper-technical environment, you try to find some peace and tranquility. We're building civic spaces on college campuses. These civic spaces are student-led, peer-to-peer facilitated places on campuses where students can escape the partisanship of the moment. They can have tough conversations. They can meet people that are different than them, that look different than them. And importantly, and this is the key point, is when they have those interactions, the goal of those interactions are not to necessarily find solutions. They're not to create moderates. It's not to create centrists. It's to help engender a sense of empathy and kindness to people that are different than us. And that sounds kumbaya, but our democracy is back to basics, Deb. And what we need is some attention to people that are different than us so that we can actually get somewhere in terms of solutions. We create these civic spaces, these college chapters across the country. Those college chapters we suddenly came to the realization that we have all these young people. They're really passionate, they're empathetic, they're constructive in the way that they listen, they want to solve problems. Those skills are needed across industry, doesn't matter where you work. And so then we created this thing called the Bridge Institute. And what the Institute did was it takes our young people, finds organizations that are interested in hiring Bridge students. And the idea is, let's start putting Bridge-minded leaders into positions of power. And we're playing the long game here. You start to instill people that are thinking the way that you want them to be thinking. They're constructive, they care about other people. Now they're going to start making decisions. And so it's a movement driven by a desire to improve our politics and then focused on how we can actually create something tangible.
And so many things I can grab onto there. One of the things you mentioned early on is that Bridge is not about creating moderates. It's not necessarily about, oh, we need everybody just to, get along to solve problems, but that it's the base of empathy, the base of relationship. That really resonates with me, I guess, not surprisingly, given, my background and interest in these spaces as well. Okay, so Myco's all about collaboration. I pitched this Myco Minute as informal conversations about collaboration. And one of the things that strikes me about Bridge is you all are collaborating in a million different ways. So it's not only, left getting together with right. It's not just about, the college campus. You mentioned the Notre Dame and the Berkeley and the CU folks coming together. But you're also collaborating as a team. I'm wondering if you can tell me a bit about the core team that makes up BridgeUSA. So let's start there. And I have all sorts of collaboration questions for you. So we're just going to kind of build this out. So let's start with the core team.
I'm excited. Core team is why I started in Bridge in the first place. It's the reason why I've stayed. Work matters. What we're doing is important. The mission matters. But if you don't love the people that you work with, and if you don't have a community of friends that you're co-creating something with, it can get really lonely really quickly. And the other part of this is we picked one of the hardest industries to work in, politics. And so you need a group of people that you can trust and who you can work together with. I started BridgeUSA with my best friends. Back in 2017, we didn't know each other. We became friends through a common mission and desire to see something better than the status quo. So we got together, we started creating work. And so Ross, John, myself, Roger, Corlin Carpenter, other folks, there might be an infinite amount of co-founders for BridgeUSA, Deb. But the point is that this core team of people got together and we said, let's build this. Fast forward 4 years, we were graduating college. And so Ross, myself, John, Amanda decided, we want to take this full time. There's never been a more important thing that we can be doing at this moment in our country's political side. But importantly, it gave me some sense of purpose, and it gave me a sense of community, which is so important, as you know, with collaboration and the desire to collaborate. And so now this is where we live. This is where we work. This is our den. We live, breathe, work the same air, and we're waiting for the thing to explode.
And literally, just like across in the other room, if we open those doors, we can go say hi to Amanda.
Well, you can say hi to Ross, and you can, and Ross lives right here. Amanda's actually now going to do other things on the Hill, and we have now 3 new students we've hired. And the one of the things that you and I have talked about, Deb, and what I have to congratulate you with Myco is, when you're building that founding culture, now slowly as you scale and you grow, you start to lose some of that closeness that bound the original team together. But it's important to me. That culture and community is so important.
Yeah, and what's that notion of the bridge-minded leader going off to do other things. Here, Amanda is literally heading off to the Hill. And not only did you pick politics, which is a tough space, but you picked the nonprofit space, which is its own sort of tricky beast. And if I'm recalling correctly, a number of you declined other offers to stay and to do. You're so committed to the Bridge vision that this is what it's all about for you all, which is very inspiring. What about collaborations with other organizations or other partnerships? What kind of partnerships are you engaging in? And also, let's start there, and then I have a follow-up question to know about how you select them.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things about developing something when you're 17 is you quickly realize that you don't know everything. And importantly, that's actually a strength. inexperience, I think, is a very good value for pushing learning and always being the learning mindset. And so we realized very quickly that we wouldn't be in the place that we are today without our mentors, without people that we worked with. Partnerships are so important. The caveat to this, and then I'll explain to you some of the organizations that we're working with. The caveat is you don't want to just partner for the sake of partnering. You want to partner so that your organization can cohesively and tangibly benefit, and the other organization also gets equal incentive and value, right, out of that partnership.
I find that. I love that point. Yeah.
Yeah. If you and I are partnering and I'm getting all the value in the mentorship, and Deb's just sitting here for 15 minutes every day talking to me, it's going to burn you out, and it's not going to be an effective collaboration. So I think there's a distinction there between positive collaboration and I think neutral collaboration. In terms of who we partner with, there's three sort of pillars that I look at, Deb, and they very clearly map onto our organization. There's three goals we have as an organization. We want to elevate our voice on social media. We want people in the media to actually be telling the stories of our amazing, awesome students. And the third thing is we want to have the ability for Bridge to actually resonate in the halls of power. We want members of Congress to pay attention to these young people that are building this movement. So our partnerships correlate to those three goals. So the first one, social media, and actually getting people engaged with us. We work with an organization, an amazing organization called A Starting Point, which is founded by Chris Evans, Joe Kiani, and Mark Casson. They're three amazing entrepreneurs. And Chris being the movie actor, Mark being the producer, and Joe being the businessman. And they have helped us elevate so much on the social media space, and also given us great content to provide our students. Then you have the media side of actually news reporting. If you want folks to actually cover your work, you want those folks to be invested in your work. At least they care about the story. So developing relationships with reporters that are positive, that are engaged, and that want to shine a light on people that are trying to make this country better. And a third partnership, organization called Millennial Action Project. Amazing, amazing folks who work with young members of Congress. That partnership allows our students to directly engage with those members of Congress, to have them speak at our events. So the key there is our partnership and collaboration are defined by a goal. And when that partnership is meeting that goal, it's a win-win for both organizations involved.
Yeah, that right there answers the strategy filter question, knowing that you can't really partner with everybody. How do you choose whom to partner with? And that answers it beautifully. And this idea, one of the things you said is that starting an organization when you're 17, kind of the intellectual humility that comes with it. And I wish more of us were able to carry that authentic desire to learn from and with others forward, because it really does open up the range of possible conversations. It can kind of shed that sense of somehow we're supposed to know how to do all of the things in the world, which none of us know how to do. And perhaps that's a little bit more accessible. It doesn't seem particularly accessible to my 11-year-old just yet, but perhaps that comes later in development.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
We'll see. Okay, so then another form of collaboration. BridgeUSA exists on college campuses. And of course, college campuses are really complex, nuanced spaces with shared governance. And you've got students who are there from, say, 2 years to 5 or 6 years. You've got faculty who are there for a lot of years, staff and administrators. How do you think about the work of Bridge within the context of the other relationships that exist on campus?
Yeah. The end goal of a Bridge chapter is to improve political culture on our campus. It's to build a lasting civic space, right, where students feel comfortable having tough conversations. That's basically the end point. You mentioned a lot of different stakeholders on campus. As I often try to do, I try to simplify things without overgeneralizing. And my thought is there's basically two categories of actors on campus, two levels. One is the grassroots. So those are the students. Those are the people that are not necessarily making the decisions, but they're responding to the decisions. And then you have the institution. So those are the administrators, the faculty, the people that are there to actually, enforce certain ideas and to get involved and to create policies. Bridge basically works at the grassroots level in that you get students involved, you get them active, you get people to realize that there's not just the people on the extremes that are really loud, but that there's a lot of people there to hold their voice in the middle. And that's important. Then you start to work with the institutions. You show the administrators that here's a group of students that are really excited, that are engaged, that are trying to work on value-aligned goals, right? As we talked about collaboration. And the administration and the folks, for example, the dean of students at certain places or the provost is going to want to work with you. And so your chapter is now pulling both levers. Here's a very tangible example of this, Deb. At the Berkeley chapter, when we were first starting out, the controversy was all around free speech. You remember this. And free speech was the core of issues on campus. So we built up our grassroots image on campus. We built up a lot of student support. So when the time came for the chancellor and the university to actually craft the free speech policy for Berkeley as a university, they wanted student stakeholders. And so they invited Bridge as one of those participants. And that way you can start to actually be loud on the grassroots, but then also actually institutionalize the change that you're trying to seek.
So what about, how do I ask this? What do you hope students carry forward from that grassroots experience into their future lives? So, whether they graduate or transition out of college because they're ready for the next thing, what is it about the Bridge experience that you most hope they carry with them?
It's that each of their experiences matter, that they all have valid experiences, no matter what the voices tell you on social media, in the media environment, on TV, politicians, policies. It's that the experiences that have happened in your life to get you to the point where you are today are valid, and those experiences matter, and that you have a voice that comes as a result of those experiences. And that the best way for us to move forward as a country when you're talking about other young people is to recognize the validity of the other person's experience, recognize that what they've done actually has truth, not try to erase their experience, and instead to then meet them at that experiential level. When you can realize that someone else is a human, a person just like you, as a family, who has parents, who has siblings, who's lived in different places, just like yourself, and has a perspective that's different than you, then you can actually start to share stories and you can tell ideas. And so that perspective provides some hope. So that's the key that I want students to take away from their experience in Bridge, is that one, when you disagree with someone, it's not because they don't have valid experiences, it's because they have different experiences. And two, is approach the possibility for change with hope. The moment you give into hope, and hope is not just this assumption that things are going to be all right, because that's naivety. Hope is this idea that if you put something into it, you believe that there might be some change that comes out of it. That's what I hope that people get from Bridge.
I love that idea of giving into hope. So there's a release into that from the holding back. I'm curious how that idea plays out when, say, you're talking to someone who's sharing a perspective that, you're experiencing it as filled full of hate or filled full of prejudice. What does that look like in these listening spaces or in these the quad spaces that you all have created? Because the other message that we're hearing a lot is, we should be good advocates and stand up and, and shout at those moments. But that sounds kind of counter to the bridge way of being. So I'm curious how y'all recommend people hold the yes and in those moments.
It's such a good question, because it's so easy, and I try to remind myself this all the time. It's so easy for me to talk about bridge building and not actually do it. It's really easy to say, go Bridge and have these conversations, until you're actually in the room. And so this is me extending gratitude to all the students that are actually on the ground having these conversations and leading them. When it comes to those moments, here's what I tell the activists. It's that bridge building is not actually taking a step back. It's taking a step forward. Bridge building is essential to you actually creating the change, because we can talk to each other all day long and agree about, let's say, systemic racism. But if you don't convince at least some other people that are different than you or think differently, we're not going to have that lasting, enduring change. So bridge building is necessary for you to actually create durable change. And more than that, it'll help you spread the mission and the message. And at worst, you at least learn how people attack your arguments, so that you can become a better advocate.
Yeah.
For the students, really quickly, just for the students, it's that, the perspective is so important. I come from India. I was born in the US, but then I spent a lot of my early days in India, Deb, in a village like really close to Delhi. So I'm talking not like the city, I'm talking the actual villages. And there you realize, and then when you look at, for example, we have students in Africa. BridgeAfrica is amazing right now. We have students in Nairobi, in Mali, in Senegal. And what you'll find across these countries and these communities is that ignorance is inevitable. it's not just a white person problem in the US, or a Hindu problem in India, or the dominant ethnic clan in Kenya. It is this impulse against change. And so when people are having those ignorant experiences, or they're demonstrating what we call hate, I'm not saying go and talk to them. What I'm at least saying, though, is recognize that this is a broader systemic issue more than just the individual. So let's make sure that we try to educate folks as much as we can. And oftentimes you can pull someone from the seat of ignorance. It's possible. If we assume that everyone's just going to be ignorant for the rest of our life, then we're not going to live in this house for very long together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me too, it starts with that, I have a belief that every person has inherent worth and dignity. And if they believe something differently than I do, that it's probably not because they're a horrible person. And, coming from that position, I don't know, for me, a lot of curiosity kicks in, where it's not like, wait, you believe what? It becomes more of a, wait, how did you get there? Like, take me through the story, and wanting to know the thought journey and the feeling journey. And usually I can find something in there that really resonates with me. And I don't know, just as you're speaking to, I'm seeing in my head this, the fabric or the molecules of that. Ultimately, this is a person to person sort of dynamic, but that plays out into relationships with groups and into communities and into broader society and culture. So, as they always say, the personal is the political is personal.
Yep. I mean, the fundamental unit of democracy is people. No matter how much technology you have, no matter how much we think that there's other forces at play, it's people that make decisions, us. We vote at the ballot box, we make the innovations, we're the ones thinking. And so if you forget the game is about people, then I think we've already lost.
Yeah. I'm curious, do the BridgeUSA people, are they interacting with the Bridge teams overseas, the international groups? Are y'all bringing folks together in that way as well?
I'm so happy you asked that question, because it is one of our proudest achievements. And it's not my achievement, it's actually the achievement of some students down in Pittsburgh, Bridge Pitt. So for the last 3 years, Deb, we've been trying to build a community where, say you have 35 chapters and then you have BridgeEurope and BridgeAfrica. How do you get everyone to know each other? How do you get people to actually want to talk to each other? Not because it's a task, but because they want to. How do you engender that genuine community? Because my belief is that if you're trying to build a movement, right, you want people within that movement to engage, love each other, care for each other. You're then suddenly part of something larger than yourself. So we failed 3 times. On the 4th time, we finally got it. We used what every high schooler basically in the country uses, a platform called Discord. Now, the reason I'm getting so specific, and I think your 11-year-old son might have put you onto it as well, is
I suspect that's against the user policy. I believe you're supposed to be 13, so let's pretend I heard about it from someone else. But sorry.
Got it. Well, I am here to say that our chapters, some of the richest experiences is having people from these 3 different continents actually talking to each other, engaging each other, and then they're actually cooperating on events. So we had our first ever tri-continental event this past weekend on mental health. So we had and this wasn't it was the students that actually organized this. You had Kenyan students, German students, and then American students leading a conversation on mental health across, young people across the world. And they had, believe it or not, they had 3 different experts from, the 3 different areas. And it was very fruitful. And I think that when you can connect with someone that's across the world and you are actually working with them, it creates a degree of perspective. Things seem a little dismal right now, to say the least. And so if you can get out of your moment and just have a bigger picture view, and have some positivity, it helps.
Love that. And also, even the definition of what counts as mental health, and realizing that perhaps not everybody has exactly the same frame there.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be productively disorienting.
And
it helps us ask new questions about our own experiences. And amazing. Okay, so speaking of events, you all have a national tour coming up. Can you tell us, give that a little plug, and give a sense of how people can get involved?
Absolutely. We're in the middle of it right now, actually. So it's 11 events, 5 weeks. Idea is that we're trying to get young people to talk to each other across the country, to be civically engaged, We also have thrown lawmakers into the mix who have been so gracious with their time to actually be able to talk to students. And the key here is, one, civic engagement is important. Two, as you're talking about, collaboration across campuses is so beautiful. And three is that when you can actually engage with the people in power and feel like you're being heard, it makes you want to do the work more. And so there's a variety of events, and the way that you check it out is you just go to the bridgeusa.org website, click the national tour, and you get right in. And on a bonus note, Deb, we've created this tour bingo card. So if you go to 4 events, you get different prizes. And so, yes, we are helping you become wealthy off of being civically engaged.
That's brilliant. I love the bingo card idea. And I'll just, give my own plug, like sign up for the Bridge newsletters, make sure people, for everybody, learn what Bridge is doing. It's a phenomenal organization. And, these are young people working on behalf of democracy through the mechanism of college engagement. It's really something. Manu, if people would like to connect with you, so you've already mentioned the BridgeUSA website, which I'll be sure to put in the show notes. Where else can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email is also very accessible online. So there's multiple ways to engage. And one thing I just want to say, Deb, is I'm so proud and grateful for what you've set up with Myco Consulting. I know how important it is to have these collaborative experiences within different organizations. So thank you for the work that you're doing and taking your both academic and public sector work with Heterodox and applying it to this. So thank you.
I feel like I should give you a commercial fee at this point. No, just kidding. I appreciate the regard, and it's been such a pleasure to, I learned about you and about Bridge right as you all were coming on the scene, and it's been such an incredible opportunity and inspiring and uplifting, and just you all give me hope, not just for democracy, but for the next generation. It's really been a treat to get to watch your development, the organization's development. So thank you for being here for the chat, and I'll see you at our next board meeting.
I'm excited for it, and thank you to everyone watching, and thanks, Deb, for the platform.